Hello everybody, it's Sara. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming at you with a big unhaul. You might be wondering, Sarah, why are you sitting on the floor? Why are all of your books piled up on your couch? That is a very good question. I am currently in the process of doing a complete bookshelf transformation. So that is why my books are here. I currently do not have a bookshelf because it's not built yet. So this is the very dramatic background that we're working with today. So whenever I do a bookshelf reorganization, or in this case a complete transformation, I always find some books that I want to unhaul. And if you've been following me here for a while, you might already know that I'm pretty savage when it comes to unhaul. And that's because I've always wanted my book collection to be composed of all of the books that I really love. So whenever there's a book that I see on my bookshelves, I'm just like, I don't really care about that book anymore, or like, I enjoyed this when I first read it, but I don't think I'll ever reread it. I prefer to like just give it away and get it out of the collection. Of course, the moment I finally decide to sit down and film this video, my landlord starts doing something. I don't know what he's doing, but you can probably hear like some tools in the background, but we're just going to ignore that. This is already turning into much more of a chaotic video than I imagined, but it's fine. We're just gonna work through it, okay? We're just gonna deal with it. And I just wanted to touch on something first before we get into the unhaul. I have been so bad this year with buying books. Like, honestly, so bad. I feel like most of you at this point probably already know that I usually only buy a book if I've read it and really enjoyed it, and I know that I'm gonna want to reread it in the future, or I just want to own it because I loved it that much. But this year, I went off the rails. And in total, I think at this point I've bought around like 30 books, which for so many people I know is nothing. Some people do like hauls of 30 books once a month, but for me that is a big amount of books to buy in 1 year. And out of these like 30 books, 10 of those I bought before reading them, and out of these 10 books I only really enjoyed 2, which is a very bad ratio for me. I absolutely do not regret buying the other books that I had already read. I'm glad that I bought them. Some of them I bought the second I finished reading my copy from the library. So obviously these are fine, these are good, I love them, and I'm happy that I bought them. But these 10 books that I had not read before buying, I am a little bit frustrated with myself about. Anyway, I've decided that at least for the next year, like for 2023, what I'm going to do is only buy or pre-order the books that I'm the most excited about from my favorite authors, and only buy a book if I'm 100% sure that I'm going to read it straight away. And even then, I might actually just wait and get it from the library. So yeah, there are definitely some books that I'm highly anticipating for next year that I'm going to buy the second that they come out, but for the most part, whenever I go into a bookstore, I'm going to try to restrain myself, because yeah, it just annoys me that I spent money on these books that I read once and did not care about whatsoever, and now I'm just like getting rid of them. I think it's silly, but that's just me. You do whatever you like. Okay, let's get into this on a haul. I have 4 piles over here. They're not organized at all except for one, so we're going to start with that one and we're just going to get it out of the way real fast. I am going to get rid of all of my Harry Potter books. These are the French editions, so yeah, I'm getting rid of all of these. I am not going to spend too much time explaining to you why. I feel like you can all understand why I'm getting rid of these. They just really don't bring me joy anymore, and I really do not see myself rereading them anytime soon. I'm also, oh my god, these are so heavy. I'm also not going to keep these either. I've kept them for a little while. I just kept them at the bottom of my shelves and just never mentioned the series in my videos, and you never saw them in the background of my videos. I don't really know why I held on to them for a little while longer, because pretty much the second things started to go to hell with the series, I knew that like it was going to just not bring me as much comfort as it did before. But yeah, now it's time, and not keeping these. So there we go. We're not gonna waste more time on these. Oh my gosh. We're just gonna keep on moving. The next book that I see here is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. This was one of our picks for the Thieves Book Club last year, around this time of year actually, and I read it. It was fine. It's a YA kind of like fantasy, dark academia, thriller thing. It's set in a boarding school. It has a sapphic relationship at the center of it, but I just did not really enjoy it that much. I thought it was fine. So yeah, not keeping this one. The next one that I have here is The Reckless Kind by Katie Heath. This is a historical fiction novel set in Norway, and it has a bunch of really interesting great queer characters, and that is what actually drew me into this book in the first place. But I just did not really enjoy this one. I thought the plot was very, very lackluster. I did not really enjoy the characters after all, and yeah, overall I thought it was like fine, but nothing extraordinary, so I know I'm not going to reread it. Such a beautiful cover though, so that is a shame, but you know, we have to move on. The next book that I have is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. I bought this one, I want to say like 3 years ago at this point, and I really enjoyed it at the time, but I just don't see myself rereading it. But yeah, it's a YA fantasy, it's very mysterious. The main character is asexual, so that's great representation if you're looking for that. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to reread this one, but it was definitely fun. Then the next book I'm going to unhaul is going to be The House in the Cerulean Sea. I'm not going to go into too many details about this one, but I highly encourage you to look up the author and see what he had to say about this book. And yeah, it's really a shame because I loved this book when I read it. We also read this one for the Thieves Book Club actually, and I enjoyed it so much. I thought it was so beautiful and so sweet and so great, but I don't think I'm going to reread it. To be honest, even without the discourse surrounding this book, I don't think that I would have reread it, just because it's like the kind of book that you read once and really enjoy, but I don't know if I would actually read it again. But anyway, unhauling this one too. Then the next book that I have here is My Plain Jane by Cynthia Henn, Brody Ashton, and Jodie Meadows. This is a book that I got like 4 years ago at this point, and I actually really enjoyed it. This is basically a very funny, very ridiculous retelling of Jane Eyre, and it was so much fun. I really enjoyed this book the first time that I read it. It's part of a series, and I remember I think I read like another one of these books, but yeah, I just don't see myself rereading this one now, but I definitely remember that it was very funny. And if you love kind of like over-the-top, ridiculous, like historical fiction novels, then you would probably enjoy this. It was very fun. And then finally, the last book from this pile is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. This is a book that I read earlier this year, and it really disappointed me. I had seen so much hype around it, and I feel like that is definitely the reason why I did not enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But yeah, it's kind of like an enemies to lovers romance historical fantasy situation, and I just did not care about the characters. I did not care about the plot. I thought it was very boring. So yeah, not keeping that one either. Then starting with the next pile, we have this Canadian edition of Radio Silence. I am not getting rid of my Radio Silence copy, nobody freak out. I actually bought the UK edition of this book because I wanted it to match with my other Alice Oseman books. So yeah, I'm not keeping this one, but I still have Radio Silence. I still love it. It's amazing. It's still one of my favorite YA contemporaries of all time. I just don't need 2 copies, and I really prefer the UK edition, so I'm not going to keep this one. I'm going to pass it along and hope that somebody else reads this book and loves it as much as I did. Then the next 2 books that I have are City of Ghosts and Tunnel of Bones by V.E. Schwab. This is her middle grade series. I read these 2 and really enjoyed them, but I don't think I'm ever going to finish the trilogy, so I don't see why I should keep these. They're also not books that I would reread by V.E. Schwab. The more that I think about it, the more that I think about her books, the more that I realize that the series that I love the most by her is the Shades of Magic series, and all of their other books I honestly don't have like that many feelings attached to them, except maybe Vicious. Vicious is also really great, but I did not really enjoy Vengeful. So strange to think that V.E. Schwab is maybe not going to be one of my auto-buy authors anymore, but I still really love them and their work and what they stand for. So yeah, I just don't see myself finishing this series of hers, so we're going to give it away, and hopefully like a young kid who really enjoys spooky stories is going to find these. It's like one of the tiny libraries that I'm going to leave them in and really enjoy them because they're great. They're just not for me. Anyway, moving on. Okay, last pile. The first book on top is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is a book that I read at the beginning of this year. It was so hype, and I think that the main reason why I did not enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to is because I had a different idea of what this book was going to be than what it actually is. This is much more of like a historical fiction war fantasy situation, and I thought it was going to be much more about like the magic and everything, but it's very much about like war and combat, which is not usually like my favorite thing to read in fantasy, but I still really enjoyed all of the different ways that this book explores gender and sexuality, so I would definitely recommend it for that. It's also definitely super well written, but not a book that I'm going to reread. Then the next book I have here is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is a book that I read last month, I want to say, and I enjoyed it, but I definitely expected to love it more than I did, so I don't think I'm going to reread it. Still a very good book though. I would highly recommend it if you love historical fiction and also very beautiful writing. Then the next book that I have is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I read this one last year and I enjoyed it, but it's definitely none of my favorite classics I've ever read, so I don't see myself rereading it. Like, it was good, it was fine, but it didn't like blow me away. Classics are really the type of books that I cannot buy without reading first because they are always a gamble for me. So yeah, not keeping this one. Kind of in the same vein, the next book that I have here is Atonement by Ian McEwan. I found this one in a tiny library and I'm going to bring it back to the very same tiny library that I found it in. It's definitely not in the same condition that I found it because I brought this one with me to Portugal. So it went from the plane to the beach to the restaurant and the plane again, got shoved in my bags a couple of times, and yeah, it has seen many things, but I feel like someone will definitely be very happy to find this one, and it's a great book. It just did not like blow me away as much as I was expecting it to, so I don't see myself rereading this one either. Once again, another classic. This one is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I read this for a video that I did with Mary from Mary Among Stories, where we basically bought each other books and then we reviewed them in a vlog, and I definitely really enjoyed doing this video. But just like with North and South, this classic was not really for me, so I'm not going to hold on to it. The second to last book is The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. This is a romance novel that came out this year, and I was so excited about it because I knew that it featured main ace characters, so I definitely wanted to give it a shot, and I did not really enjoy this one, sadly. I did not think it was like that funny or that great. I did not really get attached to the characters, and that's very important for me in romance. I definitely did enjoy the representation that we have in here, but besides that, I thought that this one fell a little bit flat, so I know I'm not going to reread it. And then I actually saved one of the juiciest ones for last because this book is so beloved and I feel like some people might get angry, but it's fine. This is my copy, so I do whatever I want with it, and that book is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I wanted to enjoy this book so much when it was announced, and I was so convinced that it was going to become my new favorite V.E. Schwab novel, but like I said, it just did not live up to the Shades of Magic series for me. So yeah, I don't really know what happened between me and this book because everybody seems to be obsessed with it, and I just thought it was okay. Like, I enjoyed it, and there were definitely some passages that made me like very emotional. There were definitely some parts of it that I really enjoyed, but overall I just did not care about this story the way that I thought I was going to, and that made me so sad, and it was so disappointing because I had such high hopes, and I just know I'm probably never going to pick up that book again because it just hurts so much. You know, like when you have these books that you have such high expectations for, and then they like not necessarily not deliver, but they're just like not what you expected them to be, and you don't enjoy them as much as you wanted to. It just hurts differently than like picking up a book on a whim and not really enjoying it, because I was really rooting for this book. I really thought that it was going to become one of my new favorite books of all time. and it just didn't. So yeah, there, I said it, I'm unhauling it, it's over. It's not going to haunt me anymore. Alright, so these are all of the 27 books that I wanted to unhaul today. It's quite a lot, but as I said at the beginning of the video, I am very ruthless when it comes to unhauling. I do not hold back. Definitely stay tuned for the bookshelf transformation video. It is happening probably next week, and I am so excited about it. I'm so excited to put my collection in its new home, and I cannot wait to then share it with you because it has really been a process. It has been so much work, and I just can't wait to see the final results. If you enjoyed this video, and also if you're curious about my new bookshelves, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!